Alright, so after the crap that was this and this, the franchise was pretty much dead at this point. And then, you know, comes along X-Men First Class, which changed everything. And in my opinion, it brought back the franchise. It really livened it back up and brought it back to where it was. X-Men First Class was really the movie that picked the franchise back up again after the franchise was, you know, brought to its knees and no one really cared about it anymore. But I'm just going to say that this is probably my favourite out of X-Men 1, X-Men 2, the Wolverine. My two favourites are this and Days of Future Past, but this one is so nostalgic for me. Like, I watched this one first. Like, this was the first X-Men movie that I ever watched. Okay, so I was kind of watching it chronologically because after this I then saw X-Men 1, and then X2, and then 3, and then Origins Wolverine, holy crap. And then I watched the Wolverine and then Days of Future Past and la-di-da-di-da. If it weren't for First Class, then I don't think I would have ever gotten into X-Men. So that's why this movie is very nostalgic for me. And that's why I have to thank this movie so much. Anyway, I love this movie. I am excited to talk about it, so without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Erik Lehnsherr. Holy crap. Can I just say that it is because... Now, I did say that I watched this movie first, and I'm so grateful that I watched this movie first. Not only because this is a great origin story for everyone else in the movie, but this is the best origin story that I think we will ever get from Magneto. I don't know what the future holds, honestly, but seriously, Magneto is freaking awesome in this movie. I love him. He's explored incredibly well, and his character arc is so great. I love him in this movie. Again, I did watch this movie first, and it's because of this movie that I love Magneto. I think he's one of the best comic book villains and movie villains out there. He is up there with, for me, he's up there with the Joker, he's up there with Lex Luthor, he's up there with any other movie villain that you can name, just name it, and he's probably up there with that villain, in my opinion. And again, I'm just so glad to have seen this movie first, and because this movie really, like, it tells everyone else's origin story, yeah, sure, but it mainly tells Erik Lehnsherr's story, and I freaking love him. And I think this is the first movie that I saw Michael Fassbender in. It was either this movie or Prometheus. Either way, I freaking love Magneto, and I love Michael Fassbender. I will say that I do like Michael Fassbender's Magneto more than Ian McKellen's. If you grew up with the original 3 X-Men movies, I can understand why you'd think that, why you would like Ian McKellen's Magneto more, because you grew up with that one. But I watched this one first. I freaking loved Michael Fassbender as Magneto. I loved Magneto and himself. I loved it. It was done incredibly well. And his story in this is great. I freaking love it. James McAvoy as Professor X does a pretty good, well, yeah, he does an okay job. I personally like Patrick Stewart's Professor X more. I don't know why, because, again, I watched this movie first, anyway, I just love Patrick Stewart's Professor X more. I just love his Professor X so much more. His performance, I think, was much better. Like, he is a much better... I'm not saying that James McAvoy is a bad actor and that his performance in this movie is bad. I'm just saying it's a good performance. I'm just saying I prefer Patrick Stewart as Professor X. That's all I'm saying. But overall, he does a great job. All the performances are great in this movie. Especially like the three or four main characters of the movie, which is Professor X, Magneto, Mystique, and Beast. Those 4 actors, great. Kevin Bacon, we'll get to that later. Or we could get to that right now because it's the next on the list. The villain is played by Kevin Bacon, which I don't think I've ever heard or seen a movie with him in it where he's the villain, except for this one. He was okay as a villain. I mean, it's great to have Kevin Bacon in a X-Men movie. It's great. I love Kevin Bacon. He's a great actor. He's a great person in general. Why do I keep fucking dropping the pen? Anyway, it's great to have Kevin Bacon in an X-Men movie. I like Kevin Bacon. I like him as an actor. I like him as a person. But for this movie, I think it's because Kevin Bacon is playing this villain, which is what makes him likable. I think if someone else, like, I like this villain, but I don't think it's that memorable or compelling. But I think it's because the fact that because Kevin Bacon played this character is what makes him likable. I think if someone else played this villain, Sebastian Shaw, I think if someone else played him, then he wouldn't be that likable. I think this villain is likable only because he's played by Kevin Bacon. But honestly, he's not a very compelling villain. Not very interesting. I mean, I just don't understand his motivations. I don't think they don't really go too in depth on his motivations. I don't think they explore his motivations at all in this movie. I mean, why? I mean, I get it. You're doing it for the sake of all mutant kind, but why? What compelled you to do this? I think he's just one of those like an Ant-Man villain. Like if you've seen Ant-Man, he's just a villain that's just thrown in there to make the heroes come together. But honestly, like, why can't you spend a little bit more time on the villain? Like, there are great villains from other X-Men movies, like Magneto. His motivations in that movie, very clear, completely understand him, and he is a likable villain for the first X-Men movie. For the second X-Men movie, X2, William Stryker, yeah, I kind of get his motivations. I think they explored Magneto's motivations better in the first X-Men movie, but you understand William Stryker, you understand him. Let's not talk about X-Men 3 because I don't know what's fucking wrong with that movie. Okay, if you go away from a movie that was okay, but the villain was great, and that's what you remember from the movie, even if it's an okay movie or a fantastic movie. Either way, I think what goes into making a movie memorable is the villain. It doesn't matter if the movie's okay or if the movie is like fantastic on its own. If you still should be able to remember the villain, and I honestly don't remember the villain in this. All I remember is holy shit, I keep dropping it. All I remember is the fact that Kevin Bacon is in this movie. That's all. Okay, so let me just quickly run over this, very quickly. The plot and story of this movie. Right now. Okay, so it's basically about Professor X taking a troubled man under his wing to help him control his power and find his place in the world, while at the same time another mutant, evil mutant with a helmet, has a plan and a plot to eliminate all of humanity using radiation. Yeah. If you've heard that before, well, yeah, you should. It's basically the exact same plot as the first X-Men movie. Now, please don't mistake me for hating on the movie and not liking that. Yeah, I'm admitting that, yeah, it's the exact same, that it's ripped from the first X-Men movie, but so what? I mean, I'm not complaining. I like this movie. I think if they were going to take any plot from any movie, the better idea would be taking it from another X-Men movie. Well, my favourite scene in this movie, or scenes, all of them. I don't think there's one scene in this movie that I don't like. I think, like, I'm not saying that this movie is a great movie that is as good as The Dark Knight. I'm not trying to compare it to that. I'm just saying there is not one scene in this movie that I don't like. Now, as with, every movie, everyone has problems with a movie. And that's what I wrote down for my list of things. And the only problem that I had, or have with this movie, is what I said about the villain. The villain is honestly the only problem that I have with this movie. The fact that they don't go too in depth on him. The fact that a villain should be one of the many memorable things in a movie, and this villain isn't. That's the only reason. That's the only problem that I have with the movie. So overall, this is a great movie. directed by a equally fantastic person and director, Matthew Vaughn. I love you. You are so good. Please, just don't stop making movies. I guess that's about it for this movie review. So, please stick around for next week's review, X-Men Days of Future Past. So go down, like and comment on this video, subscribe to my channel for more movie reviews, trailer reactions and random videos, and I will catch you guys next week. Bye!